All right, what's up, y'all? It is the 21st of May, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is our main side, one of our fourths, and I'll talk about each of the four sides of our company and then where clothing sits, and then we'll get into the discussion as I usually lay these intros out. But the title of this video is The Need to Look Left. I just made a video a few hours ago today titled The Need to Turn Right, and this goes along with that directly, and I'll talk about it, okay? And we'll get into as much depth as we get into in this video about it, okay? But In the Image Clothing Company, yes, we are a clothing company, but really the whole point is allowing, keyword, the human body to work. As I say, we're just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, the human being on Earth. The body really is about a skeletal position. It's not about the fat content and it's not about the muscle mass, because those things change and they couldn't even be there unless there was a skeletal frame first. So the body's about neutrals, a neutral position in every joint in the entirety of it, because there's a center line on Earth's gravity. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw, naturally stabilizing our entire body, they have to be in the center because there's two sides to the body. 2 feet, opposing arches, gripping inward, keeping us vertical, and there we go. The body was designed to work, which is an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast's title, but we're designed in the image of Jesus Christ. Our bodies would just work unless there was a reason that they were inhibited or restricted. And clothing is the only thing placed onto us physically, so if it's not balanced, then our body can't be either, because it would just go directly to our functionality. Now, another fourth of us is In the Image Clothing Company Music, where I show how to size and set up guitars to not alter the body. And I also make music there, okay, that I place on In the Image Clothing Company Music. But the hands are essentially the shoulders, as the feet are essentially the hips. The body's all one, and it just needs to be unaltered while we do everything that we do. And really, we talk about so much here, in all seriousness, everything that we do physically. Standing, sitting, walking, sleeping, hydration, doing all these things naturally, okay? And we just discuss how the body works, because there truly is only one way the human body could ever work, as I say, because it's just the case, okay? So another fourth of us is In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and we have deep, blunt, bold, raw, real discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. We are all human beings, sons and daughters of our living God. We are on this earth together, and it just is what it is. We discuss it. 122 episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast as of last night is where we're at, okay? The last fourth to mention here, In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. We specialize in purebred standard poodles. To come, as of today's date, is In the Image Clothing Company Poodles breeding program. Proper, registered through AKC, the American Kennel Club, standard poodle puppies, okay? But our whole slogan for that fourth of the company is letting dogs stay natural in an unnatural modern world, with unnaturally flat, slippery flooring, dehydrated kibble for dogs, the water's been extracted, dog toys and accessories made out of unnatural materials that are going into dogs' mouths and onto dogs, collars, leashes, harnesses, anything placed accessory-wise onto the dog, if it's imbalanced, is doing the same thing to dogs as it is to human beings, because there's still a center of gravity. There's still a spine and a sternum and a trachea and a nose to the dog. There's still the only way that it could ever work, and we need to allow our dogs to just be what they are as well, okay? But yes, InTheImageClothingCompany.com, where In the Image Clothing Company clothing will always be, staying centered, fitting correct, being made from 100% natural materials, because the human body is, and that's how we do our key phrase and allow the human body to work. Same intent behind In the Image Clothing Company dog products, natural materials, 100% natural where we can, staying centered around the dog weight-wise and fit-wise. And there you go, okay? Brandless on the exterior, minimal light. If I already said a couple of those things, then okay. Okay, so we do a lot of advocating, though, on In the Image Clothing Company Poodles for proper breeding of dogs, purebred dogs, and why that's so important. Good ownership, taking accountability as owners, debunking myths on why dogs aren't listening, things like just noisy collars around their neck with dog tags, just distracting them. So, yes, a lot, okay? And I'll talk about a little bit more toward the end, event-wise, okay, under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles and the main side. But yeah, actually I'll talk about it right now just because I'm already talking about it. In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, we will have poodle parades, okay? We do, where we get together with purebred poodles of any size and or poodle mixes of any size as the only dog breeds ever allowed at In the Image Clothing Company Poodle Parade events. Hikes, walks, hanging out at parks, just getting together, discussing how to let our dogs be dogs, and just having a good time as well, okay? In the Image Clothing Company main side events, where I get together with people, as I am doing within these videos that you have the ability to see, and discuss just the anatomy of the human body, how it works, how our clothing needs to be, free modifications in clothing. We discuss In the Image Clothing Company products, right? All these things. Everything will be always scheduled under InTheImageClothingCompany.com, so just make sure you check out the times, the dates, what you can and can't bring to events, okay? All right, so clothing for everybody has to sit in the same location to not alter the body. Man, woman, tall or short, skinny or fat, any age or any part of the earth, any time period to ever be. Pants need to be entirely above the hips. So there's no restriction to the functionality of the pelvis. Slightly higher in the front than the rear for the waistband angle, so that our core muscles stay as they would always be and as they could only ever work, activated. The body would just work unless there was a reason it couldn't, okay? The reason could be anything, but if it's clothing, period and done. The tops that we wear have seams on top of our shoulders that need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders, because our shoulders only ever work behind our head, and then just right at the very edges of our shoulders where the functionality of the joint is for those edge seams, okay? Two things we have as prerequisites under In the Image Clothing Company. Conditional, because there's not always ropes on our feet that we call shoelaces, but there's only one way to weave a rope across the top of the mechanics of the human foot without altering it. That's what we title In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, found wherever you find our 5-word name as a whole, In the Image Clothing Company. With the technique, we tie our shoes evenly over toward the center line of the human being, because there's just two opposing sides to the center line, okay? And then secondly, we remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere a tag is placed in clothing, it's either just causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just not allowing musculature to activate, and then compensation tries to happen, but the body cannot compensate for anything because it's going to go where all of it does at all times, okay? So that brings us to the video. The need to look left, and really what we'll get into is the inability to and why, and it is clothing, okay? So it goes directly along with the video I just made about the need to turn right, because as I was showing within that video, turning right is actually the same thing as looking left, just as turning left is the same thing as looking right, because just the way that the body works from bottom to top, okay? Feet arches, they grip inward, okay? Then we have our neutral ankle, straight out from that pinky toe forward, and then up the ankle, the outward curvature of the lower leg, and that's how we stand, okay? So, looking left is something people cannot do. And this goes into a lot of things that are in the head, okay? Starts at the very foundation at our feet, knots in our shoes that we call shoelaces. If they're tied unevenly, then you have a rotation imbalance traveling up to the tip of your head and the tips of your fingers. And that's, yeah, that's huge. I'm gonna focus a lot about the head, actually, though, because we're looking left, meaning our eyes are looking left, our head is actually rotating from the neck up left. So a lot of what's in this video is going to be discussions on like shoulders and up. But everything that we ever talk about, physical function wise, anatomy wise of the human body under In The Image Clothing Company, anywhere down at the feet, out to the tips of the fingers, will travel up to the head and its inability to look left, okay? So, yeah, all right. I made a video here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company titled The Human Head. And I went over all the things about the head that can be so imbalanced. All the skin on our head has slightly, holy heavens, there's a lot that goes into this, so I'm approaching it in a way that I'm not quite sure where I'm going with it yet, but I know what to say. I know how to explain it, I just don't know how I'm gonna lay it out, is what I mean. Across the whole top of our head, under our skin, but between that and our skull, there's little thin muscles, because we can raise our eyebrows, wiggle the skin on the top of our head, wiggle our ears, okay? Scrunch our nose, move all the musculature in our cheeks and our eyes, okay? There's so much musculature in the human head, and we don't think about it all that often, most people at least. And yeah, it's huge. So I talk about the ears. There's a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here titled How Clothing Affects the Ears, even if it's something like shoelaces, or even if it's something like sleeve cuffs, okay? The jaw, naturally stabilizing our entire body, has to stay in the center. And all our ears is a hole between the rear of the base of our jaw and the rear lower part of the skull here. Okay, it's just a hole on either side of our head that goes into our eardrums that allow us to receive sound waves into our head and then interpret sound, okay? The body does it for us, but that's what's happening. And I talk about how we need that gap to be even on both sides. Like if you place your finger between, like at the base of your ear, and you can feel the rear of your lower jaw, and then you can feel the base of your skull, and there's that gap, like you can almost pinch your finger between your jaw and your skull back here by just moving your jaw. When I say almost, I mean you really can. Okay? Because that's what it is. The lower jaw is where my beard starts right now. Right here at the top of my beard is actually the top of the lower jawbone, okay, that comes down and around like this. Pretty much follows right where my beard is trimmed right now, okay? And our ears need to be even. It's something we don't think about. It's something that doesn't get talked about, doesn't even get looked at often. But as I talk about, I have in past In The Image Clothing Company content, the ears don't actually grow, okay? There's cartilage in the ears, and over time, our jaw being in an imbalanced position because of clothing patterning, truly, will cause the cartilage to just fill a larger gap in the right side of our head, where our ear is, than in the left. And now you're kind of like, right, in the patterning that we see people in because of all the things in clothing that cause that. Uneven shoe tying, drawstrings tied unevenly. Okay, how drawstrings affect body mechanics under In The Image Clothing Company's main side. The slipped lap knot is what I show as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company to do. It keeps our hips entirely horizontal rather than rotating our whole pelvis with a knot, okay, that travels down to the tips of our toes, up to the tips of our fingers, and to the tip of our head, okay? The things that we talk about so often, okay? The dreaded collar seam under In The Image Clothing Company. Look up In The Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification. But it just places the tops unevenly sitting on us, okay? Keeping collars centered, a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company here, because our collars need to be centered. Otherwise, there will just be a gap here, larger, on the right side where the ear is, okay, then on the left. So all of these things that we talk about, we've got hundreds of videos, but for the sake of looking left, I'm gonna focus mostly just on up here, okay? The head and the muscles traveling from the head down into the shoulders, rib cage, okay? Because our body's about rotations, okay? Internal rotation and external rotation. At the arm, which stems at the hand, because it's essentially the shoulder, and then at the leg, which stems at the foot, because it's essentially the hip, okay? The body's about rotations, and in order to look left, we need even rotations left to right on the body, okay? So the right side of the body, let me address this. This shirt I just bought used, okay? So this has nothing to do with me. I don't run, okay? But our right side is almost always more externally rotated in human beings, okay? Anything that pulls the body any farther away from its own center line will just externally rotate it. The most strength within our bodies lies in the very center of us. That's where gravity has the greatest effect. That's where we have the most mechanical advantage. If you hold something in the center of your body and feel how easy it is to do, versus take the same weight and put your arms out, it'll just be so much harder, because your body mechanically will go into external rotation, but then also just the way that levers and hinges work, okay? It's just easier in the center. So our body on its right side needs to be able to be evenly, holy lyricism, opposing the center line as it is on the left, okay? So there's a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company here titled The Right-Handed World, and we just live in one. 85%, give or take, of the population of the earth at this time period are right-handed. So any products that are made to be used with at least the majority one hand over the other will be used with the right hand, okay, and designed to be. Clothing patterns themselves are right-handed in the position they put the body in, like the dreaded collar seam, how it's almost always on the left side, placing the left side higher, dropping the right side external and farther away from the center, okay? As we talk about under In The Image Clothing Company, the stitch in our pants, look up how zippers affect body mechanics under In The Image Clothing Company's main side here, because having that stitch in the flap of the pants there that's behind the zipper, that just protects us from the zipper, it closes off the left side of the body, kind of keeping that side stuck in internal rotation and like over our left side gravity wise. And so there's a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company titled The Left Groin, and I went over how this gets very bound up here and isn't able to open to allow the other side to get even with it, okay? Yeah. And I said I was gonna stick around just the head and the shoulder area for the discussion. But no, this stuff's important to say, because it goes into it. The body can only ever work as a whole. So if you're trying to look left, you have to address it from the farthest away point of your head, which is your foot, and also your hand, and just your entire body has to be working the only way that it ever could. Otherwise it just can't. That's why I have a problem with specialists, right? As I say, it's just, I mean, you can never address your neck's ability to move if you're rotated at your feet. It's just not going to happen, okay? Because your body's just all one. I'll show this. The hand is the foot, the wrist is the ankle, the elbow is the knee, and the shoulder is the hip. Truly, that's how the human body works for every human to ever live, okay? We didn't design it, we can't decide it is an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and it's God's design. We can't ever choose how the human body works, and if we don't look at it as a whole, we'll never actually get down to the bottom of what we're trying to. Yeah, so looking left, it starts everywhere, if you will, in the body. So we need to have our shoulders in their only neutral position, okay? There's videos under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company here titled Shoulders Follow Shoulder Seams. Shoulders naturally sit behind the body. Yeah, okay. The whole thing is the shoulders are really what's going to allow you to turn your head or not. If you ever try to massage your neck, you're wasting your time. Okay, I say that out of like liberation, like stop it. Don't, because you don't need to ever massage your body. Take it with a grain of salt. But the whole point is there's only one neutral position. And from here, you can turn left and you can turn right. But if your shoulders are imbalanced height-wise, then from here, if my right shoulder's dropped, I can't look left because this muscle is already pulled on. This upper trapezius muscle here, it connects into the very base of the rear of the skull, along the spine of the neck, which is called the cervical spine, and then to the top/rear of the shoulders. So that's why when I say the shoulders only could ever work behind the head, it's just because that's the only place they could ever work. Literally, I mean, that's just it. And then you've got people like in a constant state of elongation of their muscles, okay? So they need to be in their only neutrals, just naturally and always, okay? The human body as a whole, which is actually one of the titles of In the Image Clothing Company's videos on our main side. Yeah, But see, like here, I'm looking down and left. And the only way that's allowed to happen is by the muscle here, the right upper trapezius, contracting, okay? And now, in this position, for the sake of what you're seeing, I'll just explain it. My right shoulder is actually higher than my left, okay? Because to look to the left, it takes the right side of the body, okay? To look to the right, it takes the left side of the body. I said it again because I looked away as I said it. But yeah, okay, so when we're looking left, contraction happens on the right. That's just how the body's going to have to do it because of just the way that it works. Mechanically, gravity, there's two opposing sides. That's just how it is. And so, yeah, the whole thing is about the dreaded collar seam, it's almost always on the left shoulder. It's just excess material, just what it does, puts the collar off-centered to the right. And so people are just from this one little seam alone. Out of all the many things we talk about within clothing, the dreaded collar seam by itself will just place your left shoulder lower and you can never look left. I said it incorrect. It'll place your right shoulder lower and you will never be able to look left because these muscles on the right side are just already pulled and they need to contract, meaning shorten, to get your head to be able to look to the left, okay? Look what my shoulders do, okay? Straight here, my shoulders are neutral. Stemming at my hands, if you can watch my thumbs for the visual, traveling up to my shoulders, neutral. If I look right, It's like doing this: external rotation on the right side and internal rotation on the left side. Because you'll be like this. See the contraction of my left side when I turn right up here at my upper trapezius? Okay? But if I look left, we need to be able to, and this is where the inability is in people because of clothing, truly, seriously, we need to be able to internally rotate the right side, which the left side will then just kind of compensate. I don't want to use that word for the sake of compensation isn't happening, but it's just that there's opposing sides, so they'll do opposite things. But when you internally rotate your right, then you can look left because these muscles will contract and the left side will just be working in conjunction with the right to just rotate, okay? So that's another thing that dreaded collar seam will do, is it just is stiffer, and it's back here right behind the seam almost always on the left shoulder, and it's just stiffer. And so as I'm showing, looking left, internal rotation on the right, but then you need to be able to counteract and have external rotation on the left, just because you're just going to use both sides of your body. You know, it's like leaning over one way, you use the other side to counterbalance, just because you're still on Earth's gravity, okay? And so it's a rotation that happens from extremity to extremity, from fingertip to fingertip, from side to side of the body, okay? And in order to externally rotate the left side, the shoulder needs to be able to come forward, because that's just how it's working, okay? So like this, I'm trying to do it with my hands to show, like this, okay? Or like this, okay? With the upper trapezius muscles, they'll just do opposing things because there's two sides to the body, okay? So it's kind of like dancing, no joke, right? Well, it's literally dance. I mean, that's what I mean, right? That's beautiful to show for the visual. Like when you're dancing, you're doing this. Like, I mean, this is something people do, bro. And what happens in that motion is your right trap has to be able to contract so that your left side can relax. And that's why I show the dance, is because then you can see that, yeah, one side of your body just has to be doing the opposite thing that the other side's doing if you ever step out of your only neutral and center line, okay? So, oh, there you go. I mean, you can see with my shoulders like this. Okay? So the point is, the right side of the body is always, when I say always, I mean within patterning that people get into from clothing, in just about every case, so much more elongated than the left. And so there's the video, yeah, quite a few, under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company about just the right side of the body alone, because it's the side that's just lacking its full function. It's internal and external rotation. It's stuck out here in external and it can't get internal to get even, okay? From a lot of things that I've discussed in here and all the things we talk about that are causing that under In The Image Clothing Company, okay? So what'll happen is, yeah, man. Oh, well, I'll talk about these videos. The right collarbone, the right elbow, keeping hands the same size, the right pelvis crest. These are videos under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, where, you know, specific parts of the body that we definitely need to address to get them to be working normal. Otherwise, we can never look left. So, yeah. The other thing is, there's a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company here titled Eating and Drinking with the Left Hand. I actually made that just about a week ago because we need to be able to get just even contraction of muscles left to right from our center of our whole head, okay? And so that's a big one, right? Because if we just follow the jaw, if our jaw is to the right, like this, okay? As if we're just imbalanced to the right and the jaw's still stabilizing over our center of gravity, But out of our body's only actual center, at the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, okay, then it's like the video I made a few days ago, workouts don't help the jaw, because regardless, your jaw's still stabilizing and it needs to be directly over your actual center of your body to be able to have rotations at the head. Because when we rotate our head, it's not only the upper trapezius coming into the base of the skull, but there's musculature that comes from the upper ribs and the collarbone up into the jaw, and then muscles from our jaw also go all the way up into our head up here. So to look left, our jaw needs to get from its chronically right hand position to the center, so that then we can just have motion. Okay, and I'm gonna wrap this up pretty quick, but yeah, the whole thing is the right side, which is weird because we're looking left, okay, but yeah, that's just how it has to be, okay, is getting this right side elevated enough to where the left can then go to the left, okay. I think these people are probably going to be using at least one of these fields right here, so I'll get out of here. But there you go, okay? The need to look left. There's a episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Choose the Right, actually, and I went over, yeah, all the things on the right side of the body and how it's like the only side that needs to be addressed. Sorry, I'm a little bit flustered because people. It's fine, but I'm trying to get out of their way is what I mean. But there you go, okay? Well, there's actually an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Looking Left as well, and I went over a lot of this in there, okay? So there you go. How blowing the nose affects body mechanics, that's actually another video under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company, because our nose needs to be centered because it's in the center, okay? Two opposing nostrils, they need to be evenly able to breathe through because they're going directly to our two opposing lungs, okay? And yeah, so all the things that I could reference, how clothing affects the rib cage, another video under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah, okay, just the biggest focus is getting the right side as high as the left. Even contraction, keeping shoulders even height. There's a video titled Tops Are Like a Cage for the Shoulders under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company, because we need our tops to be kind of just locked in place, left to right from our center at the edge seams of our shoulders, because then we can evenly just contract both sides of our body, okay? So yeah, that's what I'll say, and there you go, okay? So yeah, I'm content with that, okay? That's good. Yeah, it just goes directly along with turning right, okay? Turning right is looking left, just as turning left is looking right. So it's a rotation, and it's really coming from the opposite side that we're trying to get to with our head, okay? So there you go. Now, we have In the Image Clothing Company Poodle Parade events, okay? And events for the main side of In the Image Clothing Company as well. I actually talked about those at the beginning. You can tell I'm a little bit flustered in this, but that's fine. I just wanted to make sure and say it because the events are huge. Really, the videos are huge as well. But I think the big thing to see is what we really are as In the Image Clothing Company is our intros. And that's why sometimes they seem a little bit long, because that's the whole point, is where clothing sits. Because whatever modifications need to be done, or just whatever intentionality needs to be there, that's how you just allow your body to work. That's how you will be able to know what needs to happen in your own personal situation to get centered, is where clothing has to sit, and then from there you can just see where the imbalances are that aren't allowing that to be the case. So there you go, okay? Today's the 21st of May, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, and that is the need to look left, okay? yeah, ideally we can just do everything as even on both sides of the body, just because we would literally have to have the body work the only way that it actually could, just because there really is just two opposing sides. Musculature connects to the spine, right? The pectorals do, the trapezius, all three, the upper, mid, and lower ones, and 2 feet, 2 hands, 2 arms, 2 lungs, right? If we can get to the center and stay there, then there you go. Then there's no need to try to address looking only one direction. But, okay, there you go. Thank you.